Hello, friends. Welcome. And if you're brand new, please don't forget to subscribe and join us. We only have a couple rules, and that is you have to be kind, polite, and respectful to the people who are in the chat with you. I have kind of thick skin, although, the dogs have kind of tested my limits, but their loving embrace is a little bit more than I want. But anyhow, all we ask is that you be kind, polite, and respectful. So, the people who are regulars, fantastic group of people, just phenomenal. They're outstanding, and they are kind, polite, and respectful. After you've been here for a while, if you prove yourself to be worthy, then we'll make you a moderator. And so the moderators they have complete authority. They are as much a part of this channel as I am. They get involved in the content. They just phenomenal. And so they have the authority, if you are not being kind, polite, and respectful, to just ask you to cool it, and they may put you in timeout, or they may even ban you. But I need to add Diana to that too, don't I? Golly, let me make a note. I'm at that age where I have to take notes, and then at the end of the night, my wife has to remind me to read my notes. So let me see, Diana. I can do that right now, I think. Let's see if I can't do that right now. Let's get her taken care of. No, I can't. Diana too. Okay, I can. What can I do? I thought I could. Delete comment, put user in timeout, ban user. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah, I wanted to go to your site. Oh, well, we'll have to add Diana to 940. Okay. She is a great provider of information and comments and everything else. KP Heathen, welcome. One of our friends from Louisiana. I need to add you too. Okay, there we are. Theoxris, one of our great friends from, I think, California, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, TACTA is phenomenal. That's the American Civil Defense Association. I'm a member. I strongly recommend it. Their semi-annual newsletter, maybe it's quarterly, I think it's semi-annual, is phenomenal. It's only like $5 a year. Really great publication as well. Dove Season 91, welcome. Good to see you. Wyoming. So I had a really good friend in the Army from Wyoming, and he told me that people who move to Wyoming only last one winter. They usually can't make it through that first winter, and they kind of have a tendency to move on. That Wyoming has some of the most brutal winters in the U.S., even as much so, if not more so, than Alaska at times. I think I have a TACTA decal on my board right on the other side of my computer here, where I do my hauls and equipment reviews and stuff like that. Okay, so the reason you're here tonight is we're talking about food storage for preppers, a week-by-week plan for surviving an apocalypse. We are in week 10. We're going to do 13 weeks. We got 4 weeks left. And I asked the question last night on the civics class. I said, I've decided I don't want to do the bunker book because it's British, and it's primarily about living in a bunker in a post-apocalyptic world. I don't think most of us, I know I can't afford a bunker, so I don't think most of us are in that financial range where we can afford one, build one, or have the time to build one. So I don't think that's necessarily a good a book for us to move into. So I was going to offer 2 choices. If I can find the other one. Oh, it's over here. So I was going to offer grid down situation, how to prepare your home for a sudden grid down situation. This is highly applicable to almost any scenario we're going to see, except for possibly financial collapse. And then, of course, you have James Wesley Rawls' book, How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It. I like this book a little bit better than this book, only because this book has detailed lists. And I'm a checklist type of a guy, so I like to have something I can go down and checklist. But I'm leaving it up to you. I put 2 links in last night's video. I'll put the same 2 links here on this night's video. If you buy them, I get somewhere around 3 cents. I don't know. No, 2.20. I get somewhere between 20 and 30 cents off my Amazon link. If you buy either one of these books or both of them, be about 40 to 60 cents. And remember, 1/3 of that goes to the county food bank. 1/3 of it goes to the St. Vincent de Paul Society here in Central Texas. And that helps people who are having monetary crises. So 2/3 of my money gets given away. Muskoka Oma, hello, welcome. But if you would please be kind enough to let me know which one of those two books you're more interested in reading and doing as a review when we start our next book, which should be in about 3 to 4 weeks. Hello, Gil, welcome, good to see you. Let me put the link up here so that if anybody would like to help co-present this evening, feel free. Let me see here, present, invite. There we go, it's the invite. So we'll copy that. And Holly Ivans was kind enough to join us this evening. So by the second book, you're talking about the one with all the checklists, Holly? How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It? Is that the one that you're saying you want? Holly was kind enough to join us on the live last week. And so here's the link. If anybody would like to join and help us talk about the 4 subjects or the storage plan that we're adding to this week, please feel free to do that. You'll pop up on my screen down here, and then I can add you to the discussion. And you'll be live so everybody can see you. They'll see what a wonderful face you have, just like they can't see my wonderful face because I hide it behind this mask so that nobody knows what I really, really look like. Okay, so this is week 10 of our 13-week getting prepared for the end of the world as we know it. And so this week you should have purchased. Now remember, if you follow this plan, then basically over the course of the 13 weeks, you're going to buy enough food. Now it's not gourmet food, okay? I mean, we're talking bare essential survival food. You will have about 1,500 calories for 2 people for 10 months, okay? So that's what this will get you if you've been following the plan and buying as we go along. So for this week, you should have purchased 6 pounds of salt, 20 pounds of sugar, 8 cans of tomato soup, and 50 pounds of wheat or flour or Bisquick or something like that, something to make breads and things like that, cornmeal even. For next week, we're going to be looking at purchasing, let me get this marked off here, up through 44, 8 cans of tuna, 1 bottle of 500 multivitamins, 20 pounds of sugar, and 5 cans of cream of chicken soup. I've already got the cream of chicken soup. I bought 4 cans. My daughter flew in from New Jersey for a friend's funeral, and she brought her granddaughter. So we met at the grocery store. They wanted to take back some of the K-Cup of Texas coffee back to New Jersey if they can't get there. So, good question, Muskoka Oma. He doesn't specify that. If you get the whole wheat berry, then definitely that's going to last you a little bit longer. The berries have an almost indefinite shelf life when they are stored correctly. If I were doing this all over again and I had a 20-year timeline looking out in the future saying, it's probably not going to happen for 20 years, then I would probably get berries. I didn't get berries when I started. I got the canned flour from the LDS Provident Living Center. And I took that into the other room. I was tired of looking at it. Let me see. Right now in my storage, I have, let me find my LDS tab, and flour. I have 53 cans of white flour, number 10 cans of white flour. And that's 53 servings of bread per can, which is 2,809 servings for 2 people. So that's 1,400 servings, or, a couple servings a day. But, now that my daughter moved to New Jersey, then that's going to last us a little bit longer so I can share with my neighbors. But I did the canned flour from LDS Provident Living Center. You'll see I get a lot of Jiffy. As a matter of fact, I just went to Sam's, and normally you see me get the smaller 1-serving packages. This is the 10. This is equivalent to 10 of those little boxes for $3. The other ones are 99 cents each. So here I'm getting 10 times the quantity at 3 times the cost, or 4 times the cost by going to Sam's and picking it up there. So I'll get that vacuum sealed and set aside. It may be too big for my vacuum seal bags. I may have to go get some bigger bags. I include that. I include cornmeal. So, when we're talking flour or flour equivalents, I talk about flour, wheat berries, Bisquick, Jiffy Mix, Cake Mix, you name it, masa for tortillas. So all those things I throw into that. Basically, what we're saying is anything you can make bread out of, I believe is what he wants to say. Muskoka Oma was talking about going to the Toronto LDS store. And so the answer to your question, this was a great email question, I think, and if you don't mind, I'll share it with everybody else. Yes. So if you order, they have very inexpensive shipping costs, to be honest with you. If you order and have it shipped to you, you only have it shipped in the case load. So if you wanted flour, you would have to get 6 cans of flour in a case and have that case shipped to you. Very inexpensive relative to everything else for the shipping cost. However, if you go to the store, like for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years that I went to the store, they had at that time instant refried beans. And let me see how many of those I have. Beans, instant refried. I have 21 cans of refried beans. So here was my thought process for the first 21 visits to the LDS Provident Living Center. If I got a can of beans and I got a can of onions and I got a can of flour, okay, then I could make bean burritos with onions. And so I have at least 21 of each of those, 21 cans of flour, 21 cans of onions, 21 cans of refried beans. And then later on, in place of the refried beans, when they took those off the market, I replaced that with the pinto beans. Recently, I've been adding more and more Great Northern beans to my stockpile from the LDS Provident Living Center. But when I go, I make sure I pick up a package of milk. I think this last time, well, the last 2 hauls that you've seen, the last one I did 2 cans of strawberries. That's a brand new product they've just introduced on the market. It is cheaper than everybody else, but it's still $16 a can. It's one of the most expensive things that the LDS store has. Then I try to pick up either milk or pancake mix. Now, I'll be totally honest with you. I am not that impressed with their pancake mix because you have to add other things, oil, egg, etc. I would much rather spend the money on Crusties, which you can get at any grocery store, and that's a just add water. There's also, what is it? I forget the name of it. It comes in a yellow shaker jar, and just add water, stir it, shake it, and then you can pour it, and that's another one, but that's another just add water. So whenever possible, I strongly recommend you get the just add water rather than the LDS add oil, egg, and everything else, because that's going to make it a little bit problematic in a long-term storage situation. But they do have some of the best dry milk that I found. So I try to pick up the dry milk as well. Pick up a couple of those when you go there. That's fantastic. Hello, Utah Mike, and welcome. Great to see you. That's a good excuse, very good excuse if you're out gardening. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. I would have assumed that they shrank because of the kernel, but thank you for sharing that. That's great information to have. Sumi, welcome, one of our favorite Canadians. And let me see who else. Yeah, they used to have a great hot chocolate. They have replaced it. I don't think it's as good. But so when I was on active duty, we had my operations officer was Mormon. And so at this time, they still had the little 4 packs of cigarettes, and I was a pack-a-day smoker. So he would give me his cigarettes out of his old sea rations in exchange for me giving him and he would also give me his coffee. And in exchange for the cigarettes and coffee, I gave him my hot chocolate. So that was a good trade as far as both of us were concerned. So, well, and what I do to make refried beans out of I take the pinto beans, cook the pinto beans, and then just mash them. And I can add in other things as I'm mashing them. There's a fantastic Mexican spice called refried bean spice, and it's just fantastic. You add it to your pintos as you're mashing them, and then you can make it. What I like about that way is that you can also control the consistency. So a little bit less water, you can make them really thick. A little bit more water, you can make them really thin. The problem is once you make them too thin, they're too thin. You're going to have to wait and let the water evaporate. Ting Ting, good evening. Welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, that's probably true. 16, 18, and 19 in Canada then. how long will dry beans and rice last in humid environment? It depends on how you package them and where you store them. So 8 50-pound bags upstairs in your other house, had a leak downstairs, and I have not been there. So upstairs is typically going to get warmer, and warm is worse for your storage than is cold. So whenever possible, you want to store them in the coolest place possible. If they're in 50-pound bags, I would say rice and beans probably have 3 to 5 years without being any special preparations. If you can divide those up and either can them into jars or get yourself a vacuum seal system. When I bought bulk beans back in San Angelo, gosh, this was before Helen and I got married. So this had to be like 1982, 1983. I would buy a 50-pound bag of beans and a 50-pound bag of rice. And then I would take that and break it up into 50 1-pound or 1 quart or 1 gallon vacuum seal bags, and then vacuum seal those, put them into a 5-gallon bucket. So I vacuum sealed it down to where they were individual serving sizes. And by individual serving size, that's debatable as to what an individual serving size is. For me, it was whatever would fit in 1 quart. So 1 quart of rice, 1 quart of pinto beans, and I was storing lentils, and I had never cooked lentils and didn't know what they tasted like. Didn't know anything about them, but I was storing them because they said you got to store lentils at that time. I gave them away, and just after we got married and before I moved, and so her brother got 100 pounds of pinto beans, 100 pounds of rice, and probably 25 pounds of lentils and 25 pounds of sugar and everything else from us when we moved overseas, because the Army would not ship that. But anyhow, so I hope that answers your question. Break them up, or you can just take a 50-pound bag, and it'll probably take 2 25-gallon buckets. Line that. You can use a trash bag if you want to, and use the non-scented trash bags, and put that into a 50-gallon bucket. Then use either an oxygen absorber, or you can put dry ice on top of it. Remember, dry ice is carbon dioxide. When it melts, the carbon dioxide is slightly heavier than air. It's going to push the air out. And then once all that carbon dioxide is melted from that dry ice, then you can put your seal on top, and that's going to protect it against any kind of corrosion. So, any of those choices is going to be fine for you. Gil, you're in here. So why don't Gil, click on this and join me, and then you can answer that question too. Gil, this is kind of an area which Gil is our resident expert. The potato flakes, they used to have 2 different kinds of potato flakes. They had potato flakes in a bag, and they had potato flakes in a can. They did away with the ones in the bag. They only had a 3 to 5 year shelf life. They tasted slightly better than do the ones in the can. But once again, when we take a look at it, having had some potato flakes, I have 15 cans of those. And I also have a whole bunch of the Ore-Ida individual, I think it's 4 or 8 serving bags you get for like $1, $1.50 at Walmart or at HEB or whichever grocery store you go to. I buy those on a regular basis too. You want to get the ones that are just plain potatoes. You don't want any additives to it. The additives can cause it to go rancid. So you're better off with just having straight potato flakes or potato buds, either one. And then get gravy or something to go along with that. You can get those instant packets of gravy. I have the larger canisters of gravy mix that I get at Sam's or Costco. We have memberships to both. I like the brown gravy. I like the country gravy. And let me see, what all do I have? I have brown gravy. I have country gravy, soups, sauces. There we go, sauces. I have chicken gravy veloute from Thrive Life, beef bouillon. No, you don't want that. Beef Espanol from Thrive Life. I have Alfredo sauce from Rainy Day Foods, chicken gravy veloute, enchilada sauce, enchilada and burrito sauce, hot sauce, spaghetti marinara sauce, spaghetti sauce, teriyaki sauce, tomato powder and sauce, tomato powder, tomato powder, tomato powder, tomato sauce, and white sauce bechamel. Where did I put my bouillon? My gravies. Oh, they're probably under miscellaneous. I don't know where I put my gravies. Golly, where did I put them? Dairy, coffee, drinks, bakery, entrees, fruit, meat, miscellaneous, nutrient survival, pasta, proteins, sauces, soups. I don't see them under soups. Vegetables, they're not under vegetables. Other, no usage. Spices and herbs. Well, usage is basically dog stuff. Dry packages. There we go. Dry packages. So I have the Sam's Club Country Gravy, the 3.75 ounce jar. I have 4 of those. I have beef gravy, country gravy, and brown gravy. So those are the gravies I have that can go with the potato flakes or potato buds. Okay. So if somebody would kind of keep an eye on another channel for me, like something like Fox News or something, I anticipate that the Israeli jets, the F-22s and F-35s, should be over Tehran somewhere around 8 o'clock, which is about the time that we started this evening. So I think that's going to be, they're going to start, I believe they're going to start bombing Tehran and military assets in Iran, probably as early as 8 o'clock this evening. But it would be nice. That's a great point, Utah Mike, in that is part of the reason why I have not bought the whole wheat berries, is because you actually need a very good grinder. And the one that is sold through the LDS store is like $400. And you want to clamp on manual grinder so that you don't have, with adjustable heads, so you can grind coffee, you can grind, well, they won't grind coffee, but so you can grind coffee, or you can grind flour or cornmeal or anything like that. You want to adjust the thickness of it so you can get coarser, fine grinds. I just don't have the money to invest like that right now. So I bought my own coffee grinder. I think that's good. I can probably use it in an emergency for some of the other things like amaranth, corn, or wheat berries. But I just didn't. I chose not to invest in that. Northern Girl Hobbies recommends scrapping it and giving it to the chickens, unless you caught it early and can oven can it, which is basically dry canning. So basically, the thought behind that is, remember that when air heats up, it expands. So if you fill up, so if I take this right now and put it in the refrigerator, then basically this air up here is going to shrink. Okay. Then if I take it outside and put it in 100-degree weather, that air is going to rapidly expand and it could blow up. Okay. It can even blow up. I had a Coke can. I went down to, who was it? Oh, it was the Texas Historical Commission. I had a contract to do some HR work for them. And while I was inside the Texas Historical Commission from 1 to 4, giving them some advice on HR stuff, I had a can of Coke sitting in the pickup and it blew up. And that was not a pretty sight at all. But, so as air gets hot, it expands. So that means that if you put anything into your oven, dry stuff, oats, whatever, and I probably would not put it much over, say, 125, 130 degrees. What you want to do is you want to expand that air so that then once you've got it in there and that air is fully expanded and you put the seal on and then you bring it back out and let it cool down, then it's going to condense and you're not going to have as much air exposure for those ingredients that you have dry canned. That's the philosophy behind that. Oh, Ting Ting says 170 degrees. I'm not sure at what point you start cooking or for how long. So maybe 170 degrees for what, 5 minutes, Ting Ting? I don't know how long that would be. Where we are. Oh, there's Gil. Hey, Gil, welcome. Okay, you're on, buddy.
Hey, yeah.
Okay, so that's the 4 things we want to get for this week. For next week, numbers 41 through 44, we're going to get 5 cans cream of chicken soup, 20 pounds of sugar, 1 bottle of 500 multivitamins, and 8 cans of tuna. It doesn't say what size tuna. I would get the larger of the 2 sizes. Now, for this week, we're talking about projects 37 through 40. So project 37 is how to make homemade soap. And in order to do that, you're going to need lard, lye, and distilled water. So I don't know who willingly stores that. A lot of people, when they're in their homestead, will have that readily available in their homestead. And Gil has a homestead, so I'm sure that stuff kind of comes around the farm fairly easily, whereas those of us in suburbia or urban America is probably not going to be something we would typically have around the house. So you'd have to get that. And I'll tell you something, Gil, you can probably yell at me for this. I've seen a lot of people want to go out and buy cans of Crisco and wicks because Crisco can make an emergency candle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lee's personal opinion is, why would you buy Crisco and wicks for a substitute for a candle while you can still buy the real candles on the market? The whole reason they came out with that Crisco can is if your other candles go away, then you can use the Crisco in an emergency as a substitute. So people, when you see these emergency substitutes, don't go out and buy stuff for an emergency substitute. Go out and buy the real thing. You're probably going to get higher quality, longer lasting at a cheaper cost. Same thing with soap. They're telling you how to make soap in an emergency. Right now, while you have the availability for hand soap, for anything else that's on the market, don't buy the components to make it. You're not going to have a whole bunch of free time in a post-apocalyptic world. Go out and buy the real thing and use that to the maximum extent possible. Gil, it looks like you have a thought.
So yeah, on that, when it comes to the emergency stuff, keep that information for later. Yeah, it's like if you write it all down like in a recipe book, for later. One of the videos I did on my other channel, Camp Patton Family Compound, before I resurrected Gray Man Prepping, was alternate fuels for I'm trying to remember what it's called. Alternate lamp oil fuels for emergencies. All right, and the thing is in there for emergencies. When you've run out of regular lamp oil, and people will say, "Oh, we use this all the time." I go, and I keep telling people, "No, this is for emergencies. You want to right now while you can stock up on real lamp oil."
Yeah.
Because you can use olive oil, you can use all these other cooking oils, and since I made that video, I found out that a lot of the cooking oils have been processed so much now to be able to withstand higher cooking temperatures that they don't work good anymore in lamp oils. And people, oh, well, just add a little gasoline to it. I'm like, no. You want to make a bomb? Yeah. There's a difference. Lamp oils use combustible fuels, not flammable fuels. Two totally different things. Look up of what it is. And so with anything else like the Crisco, I did a video on how to do the Crisco, and I said, hey, this is for emergencies. Well, since I've done that, I've done more digging into Crisco, and I've learned a lot more about the dangers of Crisco in your diet.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. And so all the 3 cans of Crisco I have stored, all right, that is going into my emergency candle supply.
So if you're going to look for emergency candle supplies, here's a couple thoughts. Number one, get yourself a good kerosene lamp and get kerosene. But that's my third choice. Okay. My second choice is get liquid paraffin for that lantern.
Yeah.
And liquid paraffin is a lot safer to store than is lamp oil.
Liquid paraffin, the interesting thing out about it, and it's really confusing, people don't realize it. Paraffin is what the British call kerosene.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So basically, it's now in America they try to say, well, we refine the kerosene a little bit more to make it paraffin. It's a marketing ploy.
Huh? Did not know that.
Yeah. There are some.
I do know that they have different flash points, and the liquid paraffin appears to be safer than does kerosene.
Actually, if it's been refined more, it actually has a lower flash point.
Really? Wow.
All right. So real quick history here. All right. On your oils, the way they refine an oil and run it through what's called a cracking tower. Have you ever seen a refinery and you see these big old huge like smokestacks? Those aren't smokestacks. Those are cracking towers. And as they heat the oil, the crude oil. I was looking for the term crude oil up. As they heat it up, they pull off vapors at certain levels, and those vapors are going from from the different types of oils on up through. You get up into your diesel, number 3 diesel, number 2 diesel, number 1 diesel. And the thing is, number 1 diesel is the same as number 2 kerosene. And I'll explain a little bit more difference here. And then you have number 1 kerosene, and then you have and you go up to your different ones, and then you get into the gasolines, so your different grades of gasoline. Well, the difference between number 2 kerosene and number 1 diesel is that number 1 diesel has additives added back into it to make it work better in a combustion engine. That's the difference between number 1 and number 1 diesel. And
number 2 kerosene is basically jet fuel, right?
No. Oh, you know, a whole nother animal there. I put out a whole thing on the one video.
We don't need to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know, but basically for your jet fuels, you have like 8 different types of aviation fuel, and depending on what they put into it, depends on whether it's JP4, JP6, JP8, whatever. And some of it, all it is that it makes it different is they have like 70% kerosene and 30% gasoline blended into it with a stabilizer added to it to make it bond. To give you a more cold temperature kerosene
I knew it was kerosene based, but I wasn't sure how it was done.
Yeah. Okay. But when you get going back, when you're talking about like one of the things there, you talked about adding the carbon dioxide, that's dry ice over your rice or your wheat berries to displace the oxygen. You got to be careful when you do that. You got to check your humidity, because the carbon dioxide, as it drops down in, as the dry ice heats up and turns into carbon dioxide, it also pulls in moisture out of the air. So you got to make sure you have plenty of desiccant packs added to that to pull the moisture back out of it. One of the things I found out, and if anybody has a welding supply near them, this is a really cheap way of doing it, comparatively speaking. You get one of the small tanks of nitrogen, and you get the right. You get set up, and you put it in there. And what you can do is you put a tube down to the bottom of your 5-gallon bucket or 10-gallon bucket. You crack it on slowly, and you put a little candle, like a birthday candle, near the top. And what it'll do is it'll slowly displace the oxygen. And when the nitrogen starts to come out, it'll put that candle out. You turn it off because you're now full of nitrogen, no oxygen, and seal it up.
Okay, sounds great.
And that makes it. That's a lot. For buying all the dry ice and stuff, you're going to find out you can get a decent sized tank that'll do a whole bunch of stuff of nitrogen, and you don't have to do it all at once. You can just do it a little. Do one this day, do one that day, and it stores forever in the tank.
Great, thank you. Hey, Jack, welcome. Good morning to you. I guess it's Wednesday in Australia. I'm getting ready to go to the doctor.
And excuse me while I finish eating dinner.
Okay, that's fine. As you see, I drink my sodas, and my soda substitute. This is just sparkling flavored water. So project number 38 is do-it-yourself vegetable rennet. Now, in my experience, rennet was typically made with meat fats, but this is for those people who, I don't know if you know the origin of the word. It's called vegetarian, and actually vegetarian is an old Navajo word, and it means warrior cannot hunt. Gil didn't even smile. Okay.
Kind of interesting. I think it's because vegetables been around for forever in different things and different root words similar to vegetables. I think that may have been brought into the Navajo, because the Navajo have been well over 100 years, 200 years, dealing with the Spanish stuff, is drawing other words from other languages into theirs and incorporating it.
Yeah. So Theoxorus is, and the group is talking about. Well, first off, yes, Jack, we wish you the best outcomes at the doctor. We went shopping today because Helen's having a procedure day after tomorrow, so we've got to put her on. She can't have anything in her esophagus or upper GI for the next 24 hours, and so we took care of all that. So we are with you. We pray for your well-being and a good outcome for whatever's going on. I have had nothing but good luck with Crusties. And now Jiffy and Crusties, both of them, what I strongly recommend is, remember, they do have some additives in them. So you want to get those vacuum sealed almost as soon as you get them. And I have not had any problems with either one. I've had Crusties sourdough mix that's been 6, 7, 8 years old. Now it's a little bit flatter than we would like. It doesn't rise quite as much as we would like. But we've eaten at 8 years old and vacuum sealed, and it's been fine when we cooked it. So I'm not that concerned about it. But if you're concerned about making vegetable rennet, that's on Project 38. Project 39 is how to make homemade pectin. Now, I want to, and it's a good thing Gil's here with me because he kind of is a little bit more attuned to this than probably I am, although I'm very well attuned to it. There is this thing, everybody wants to get potassium iodide in case of nuclear radiation. Remember, the first place that is most susceptible to getting radiation is going to be your thyroids. So what potassium iodide does is it basically saturates your thyroids with free electrons so that the radiation cannot get in and affect your thyroid. It does nothing to protect the rest of your body. So if you're being exposed to radiation, you're being exposed to radiation. What you need is a good radiation counter. And I have 2 of them. I can recommend either one of them for you. GQ, let me see if I have it here. I usually have it right here by me, but I don't have it here right now. GQ has one that is fantastic, and the other one I have is Rexit, I believe. But and you also want to have what's called a dosimeter. Now, a dosimeter is a little bitty card, looks like a credit card. You can either wear it as a necklace, or you can put it in a wallet, or you can put it in a shirt pocket. What that shows is the total amount of radiation you've been exposed to. Now, to bring this all to the subject at hand, where we're talking about pectin, is that after Chernobyl, and by the way, Chernobyl is a Russian word. It's a cognate of 2 different words. Chorny, Chernyj, is the adjective for black. And byt, B-Y-T soft sign, or B-Y-T soft sign, is the verb to be. So Chernobyl means it was black. How's that for prophetic? But anyhow, after Chernobyl burnt down, they were treating a lot of the people who had been exposed to radiation with pectin. And they were having some success. And this is not a cure, and it's not a prevent-all, and it's not anything that I'm giving you any kind of medical advice, just that they were having some marginal success in reducing the overall amount of radiation exposure in the people who had large megadoses of radiation using pectin therapy. Gil, do you know anything more than that?
They had success using a lot of natural herbal remedies, and they were experimenting. They also had a lot of absolutely no impact using certain herbal remedies. And it's very hard to get hold of the documentation on what happened there at Chernobyl and what they had success with, what they had failure with. But I know, it's one of those, radiation is one of those funny things because it'll affect one person different than it'll affect the person standing right next to them. And they get the same doses and it'll affect them differently because of their genetic makeup. Mm-hmm. And that's why, for me, it's like, okay, yeah, this can work, but is it going to work the same for my wife, or is it as it will for me, or vice versa? Or are the kids going to be affected totally differently? Are they going to be affected less or better by whatever you use? And so, when it comes to radiation, my best suggestion: avoid it at all costs.
I think that's the best advice. Absolutely.
I mean, it's all right. Like me, if you look at my videos, I think that I've only done like 4 videos on going back on my other channel, which I had longer, Camp Pat and Family Compound. And all 4 of those videos, I'm indoors with short sleeves. Everything outdoors, long sleeves. Outdoors, I always have a hat on, whether it's this hat, one of my cowboy hats, one of my broad brim straw hats for gardening. I always have a hat on, just because of sun radiation.
Right.
And one of the things I wish I had known about when I was a preteen, I wouldn't have been going out in the swimming pool all that much and everything else, because, I don't know if it'll show up here. I don't know if you can see the spots here on the hand, the dark spot. Yeah, that's something that I picked up because I used to be out there without a shirt on up through my mid-20s and stuff. My older brother tanned so dark people thought he was African American.
Wow. Yeah, my sister tans so well that they think she's Hispanic. But he held up his left hand. So here's a little clue for everybody. I had some removed from my left hand and the left side of my face.
I got one on my right hand too.
And but if you look at the statistics, cancer develops on the left side of U.S. bodies more frequently than it does the right side. And the reason is because you're driving and the sun coming in from the left through the window in comparison to the right side is shielded by the roof of the car. So we get far more sun exposure on our left side of our body when we're driving than we do on the right side. And that's one of the reasons why statistically the left side's better, more prone to cancer than your right side.
Also, the left ear, especially for those of us that were pre-air conditioning in cars, because you have the window down for the driver, and there's the wind just blowing in your ear, and that's why people my age and your age and my sister's age, who's even older. Hang on. Here's my warning for getting ready for my my life here in a little bit here.
And we'll all go over there.
Our AC for our cars was 255. 2 windows rolled down at 55 miles an hour. And so that's how we cooled the car off, because there was no AC. And
in El Paso, we called it 440. 4 windows rolled down 40 miles an hour.
And so you had that wind blowing. Well, when it comes to radiation and stuff, you have to figure out what are you doing, what are you prepared for if the possibility of nuclear war happens, or a nuclear accident, or a dirty bomb. And looking at all of those from my perspective of my former life, Homeland Security, the dirty bomb is the most likely to happen.
Yeah. Let me do any comments here real quick. Annie Luhu, welcome. And Claude Ortega, I see your question. We'll get to it here in just a second. So Ting Ting, yes, that's correct, but it was not wheat. And the same thing with they are now attributing the vast majority of the plague in Europe to rotten either rye or barley. So there were certain, help me here with the word. It's kind of like botulism that grows on rye and barley. And so it's that they believe started the plague in Europe. It's also what they believe a milder form of that is what was infecting the people in Salem during the Salem witch trials.
There's a lot of bacterial things on spoiled food that cause all sorts of different ailments, including mental. Will nitrogen damage? No, nitrogen will not damage the rubber seals of buckets. Whether you have the gamma lids or just the the silicone rubber or any of that, it will not nitrogen in the air is at what is it 23% naturally in the air, so no, it's not going to damage it.
Jeannie Barnes, welcome. Good to see you. I don't remember having seen your name before, so welcome to the group. Let me see. Try to catch up with, because we don't have much time left, and we got 3 more things to do. Lee, do we start the potassium iodide now? No. And it's KIO is the chemical symbol for that. And no, you don't take it until you know you have been exposed or exposure is imminent. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would recommend you do, especially right now when things being as critical as they are, about twice a day, probably when you first get up in the morning and maybe about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, because they can change over time. Know where the most likely nuclear targets in your area are, and go to windy, WINDY.com, and it will give you the prevailing wind direction so that you will know where, if there is if you're not in an area that is a target, you'll know at least where you're downwind from a target based upon the wind direction that you're going to be doing. There's another, and I forget his actual website. Let me see if I can't find it here. It's called Nuclear Secrecy. Golly. Nuke Secrecy. Nuke maps. So that's going to be, I'll put the, it's called Nuke Map by Alex Wellerstein. You can play with this. I'll put it in the comments here. You can play with this site. You can put in your actual physical location. You can put in the size of the burst. You can put in whether it's an airdrop or whether it's a ground burst, and it will give you all the information as far as projected casualties. It'll use prevailing winds that are predominant for that season, not necessarily for that day. To give you, if it's going to be a ground burst, it'll give you the fallout cone for that. So it's a good thing to play with. I would say go to windy.com and go to Nuke Secrecy, this site that I just put up there. Check for your own area about what your ground burst nuclear radiation fallout cone is going to be. But in the meantime, if you're worried about it, there is a recipe for how to make pectin. There was some success with it at Chernobyl. I'm not going to say that I'm a physician and can give you any advice on it. I'm going to tell you, read up on it and then see what you want to do. The last one.
Let me give you something real quick here.
Sure.
There is I've shown it on my channel. There are 2 sites. One is from Weather Street that shows the jet streams and stuff at altitude. There's another one, where is it? Shoot, I don't have it on this one here. Let me look on the. I got 2 different browsers. Okay, the one is called Ventursky, VENTUSKY, and you can go. It gives you current wind directions and everything and speeds by elevation. So you can go 5 meters off the ground, 50 meters off the ground, 250 meters, 1,500 meters.
Wow.
And you can get that, and that's as well. However, when you're talking about, air burst, the air, for that is what altitude is that air burst at? Is it a very, very, very high one where they're trying to take out all the satellites through an EMP? Or is it more closer to the ground where they're trying to get shockwave down for the biggest dispersal? So that's something to consider on that.
Well, so here's, and Sumi, that's a very valid question. So the last one is basically how to make corn cob jelly. But I tell you what, to make the corn cob jelly, it takes so much as far as supplies to make it that I would say you're better off just eating the corn. I think it says 20 cans of corn in the recipe. But anyhow, Sumi asks a very good question. It's KIO is the actual formula. And no, if you're over 65, then the protection that it affords you is not going to pay out over the normal lifespan that you have left. So they recommend that people over 65 KIO is going to have relatively little positive effect if you do take it. So the recommendation is age 65 and over, no need. So I have 2 bottles here, and I'm over 65. So when I found that out, so if anybody wants to come to the house and take my KIO, feel free to.
Relatives, grandkids.
My grandkids are in New Jersey. I don't think they'll make it here. My only relative is my sister and her 2 children. But anyhow, let me see here. What else do we have? Holly Ivins, sorry about your mom. Fungus, thank you, Little Lone Prepper. Yes. Look at you. You guys are so, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. Jeannie, welcome. Good to see your name. Hope you'll join us. Okay, so there's the nuke secrecy map. And then email me those 2 that you were talking about, Gil, and I'll put those up next week.
All right, give me a second here.
Or you can put it up. Aren't you a monitor?
I'm trying to get this up here real quick here. Opening a new tab. I just dropped the link to my live stream, which is going to start in 9 minutes.
Yeah, and put up that link too.
I just dropped that in there.
Good.
And
he dropped out. Okay, so he's got to get his live ready, and we all go over there if we can. Oh, there he is. He's back.
I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
All right, so let me go ahead and complete it.
I want to pin this so everybody can go there.
Open a new tab. Okay, so the Jetstream one, here's the Jetstream one, and it goes out for 10 days. And it says the one that says Weather Street on it. And then the Ventrusci, and here is the, and there's the second one. And that one you can check. You can do temperatures, wind speeds, rain, wind gusts, air pressures, humidity, and there are all the choices on that second one. So,
okay.
All right.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Green Grass Grows. I appreciate that. Hope you'll join us and spread the word. So let's review what we're going to be doing next week, so we can get this shut down. I'm
going to slide out so I can get everything set up on mine right now.
Okay.
Slide out so I get everything set up. All right.
Okay. See you guys, so let's go over to Gil's. I've got this the line. Where was it? I had it up there.
It's about the 4th or 5th comment up right now.
I got it. There we go.
There we go.
So this is where we're all going to go in a couple minutes and join Gil over there. And don't forget that for next week, we're going to take on 4 more subjects. We're also going to be adding to our preps, and in those additions to our preps for next week are going to be 5 cans of cream of chicken soup, 20 pounds of sugar, 1 bottle of multivitamins, and 500 multivitamins, and 8 cans of tuna. So last week or 2 weeks ago, we did the 500 aspirin. This week we're doing 500 multivitamins. Okay, so that's 250 days worth for 2 people. Wow, great discussion. Thank you, Gil, for being here and joining us. Gosh, great people, great chat. I am sorry that I didn't get an opportunity. Whoever lost their mother, I'm sorry. I got contacted by a friend of mine. We went through elementary school together. We went through Blessed Sacrament Elementary and middle school together. And then he went to Cathedral High School. I went to Jesuit High School. And then he left Cathedral and graduated from Andrus High School in El Paso. And then I left Jesuit and went to Burgess High School in El Paso. So we graduated from different high schools. My family had moved on the other side of the airport. We both went into the Army Security Agency. He cheated because we grew up in El Paso, and 85% of the population in El Paso is Hispanic. Nosotros hablamos español. So he went in. He went in as a Spanish linguist. I went in and took Indonesian for my first language, Indonesian Malay, and that was 47 weeks, 8 hours a day. He did Spanish. Then later on, I converted over from Indonesian Malay to Russian. George changed over. He went back and took basic Russian. Then he was assigned back for intermediate Russian, but he didn't want to do intermediate Russian. So they ended up making him a Spanish instructor. And he retired out of Monterey, California as a Spanish instructor. And so we haven't talked, gosh, I think we were both home at the same time for one of our high school reunions, and we chatted. The best man at my wedding is also a good friend of George's. And so the three of us kind of, that we were that little clique, if you would. And we keep up through Fred, who is, and his brother. Fred's actually a year older than we are. And then Mike, his younger brother, is our age. We were closer to Fred than we were Mike. But anyhow, we got all that together. We had a great talk about that today. So that was really exciting. So, but, he just lost his mother. And that's where I'm going with this long story is, we are now the senior generation. And my gosh, it's something else. It's just, we are that generation now that our parents were just a little short while ago. And they pushed, I wish I had the knowledge and the wisdom of my parents to carry on with the same amount of love, concern, and knowledge that they had. But, we'll see what we can do to turn this around, make it better. Diana, too, has a very good comment here, and that is that Dr. Joe Alton, now he has 3 or 4 different books out. And she's probably talking about his first aid manual and talks about other ways to treat or mediate or prophylaxis against radiation sickness that are mentioned in Dr. Joe's books. He also has a fantastic one on pandemic protection. And then there's another good book they have on basically building a home hospital or a sick ward or whatever you want to call it. So, those are all great things. Okay, let me see. Okay, with that, I guess we will shut it down and go over and join Gil on his live. Let me see if I can't get that back up here because I'm going to need it to go. So let me see if I can find it. I know it's up here somewhere. I had it there a while ago. Oh, well, I'll have to look for it. I may just have to look for it on his channel. Okay, so Numbers chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. Has anybody checked? Has Israel started bombing Iran? Because I anticipate that should be happening right about now. And welcome to all the new people. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the value you add to the channel in your comments. And thank you for being kind, polite, and respectful to my other members and my other moderators because I really, really appreciate it. So Numbers chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So remember that we're all in this together. No person is a lone wolf. You aren't going to survive that way. The only way we're going to survive is by being kind, polite, respectful, learning from each other and teaching what we know to each other. And then that way, all of us can come through this together. So I'll see you over at Gil's Gray Man Prepping's live that should be starting in about 2 minutes. Take care, everybody, and thank you for being here. Bye-bye.